So I drove up, yeah, I shot that yesterday for it.
Reminds you of the old days.
Oh, yeah, I don't even feel like I wrote that. I'm still like
Doing the same
But
kind of
it's
stuff.
not- it's not-
Yeah.
Other than
I haven't been out there. I was going.
Right.
I can go back to the college. I got a deadline. Oh, it takes time. It's the same.
Yeah, but and that was the same one. So I was
Most things I
using
can
that
do.
as my
Oh, that's good.
and it won't close.
And now I'm doing this looking clouds.
Ride alongs and stuff. That's awesome. They were doing something on Short Fair as I drove over here today, over at the road course. That's the driving course.
They do it with so much time and not only hit like maybe
Right.
And then
When Ford was doing his Firefighters speech piece last year, they let him drive the fire
I
truck.
saw that. I was kind of jealous.
It's like every boy's dream.
I found back to where they're friends. But trying to go back there.
So, like, after I lost the first pair, then I was like, well, I have to be no nerd of
I have to wear them dry.
I do. She's actually one of the reasons I came.
Really?
I was up in Boone shooting in that state, and I had them like
Good.
tucked in my shirt, and running, moving down the aisle. I fell out, never could find them. I was like, okay, that's it. That's when I got the wrap. Much rather than
Pretty good. Good job.
they were nice. It's like, rather pay $12.
Yes.
Well, we're doing what we can. We're just covering for more social media.
There's a small community that they even speak either English or Spanish, which is very good. And there's another partner from Oklahoma. There's a small refugee community.
Oh,
Hey guys, thank you for being here. Ed McNeil, Marketing and Communications, City of Winston-Salem. I want to go ahead and give you the names and spellings of our speakers today. First, you're going to have Trey Mayo. I'm sure you guys already have him in. Available to answer questions along the lines of permitting and things of that nature is Rick McIntyre. Rick is R-I-C-K, McIntyre, M-C-I-N-T-Y-R-E. He's an assistant fire marshal. We also have Minor Barnett, that's M-I-N-O-R, Barnett, B-A-R-N-E-T-T-E. He is with Forsyth County's Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection, and he can speak some to air quality. Okay, let's see. I believe that's all of those speakers. We will also have at the, after we've heard the new information that can be released today, we will hear from Mayor Pro Tem D.D. Adams. That's capital D.D. and then Adams, A-D-A-M-S, common spelling. Okay? All right, that's how we'll proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Trey Mayo. I'm the fire chief for the city of Winston-Salem. Appreciate you being here this afternoon with us. I have an update since, so we had a 2 p.m. approximately news conference yesterday, and then we had a 4:30 briefing this morning. It is now 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. We are 72 hours, almost. We'll be 72 hours into the event at about 7 o'clock tonight, 6:30 or 7 o'clock tonight. And you all have, we've been doing this for long enough now, you know that my update is in no particular order. About 4:30 yesterday afternoon, we had a subject matter expert on ammonium nitrate arrive in Winston-Salem from a company in Hopewell, Virginia called Advanced 6. And this gentleman is regarded as one of the premier ammonium nitrate experts in the United States. Coupling his expertise, he's a chemical engineer by training, coupling his expertise with aerial surveillance that we had captured with one of the fire department's hazmat specialists flying on a state highway patrol helicopter yesterday afternoon. We determined that enough of the bulk ammonium nitrate had been consumed by fire that we were in an appropriate position to start cooling operations on that remaining bulk product in the facility. That operation has been successful. We were able to place 2 unstaffed ground monitors. They each flow about 500 gallons a minute on those piles, and they flowed overnight on those piles and were successful in cooling the piles. We also, we've talked about the rail car that is adjacent to the facility that contains 90 tons of 34% ammonium nitrate. We were able to get a crew on that rail car yesterday afternoon and determined that it had not sustained any heating and was not susceptible to any sort of runaway chemical reaction. The product that we found inside was dry, white, and granular, as we would expect ammonium nitrate to be in its stable state. That also presented us with an opportunity, because we don't know what happens because of the unpredictable nature of ammonium nitrate. We don't know what may happen when we start, getting in and poking around in the plant and moving things around with heavy equipment. So yesterday afternoon presented us with an opportunity to get a ladder truck up in place with 2 1,000 gallon per minute nozzles on the platform that could direct water onto that rail car, and we just set it up, made sure our nozzles were properly positioned, and we shut that operation down. But it is there in case something happens and begins to threaten that rail car. We're already in a position to start a cooling operation. Shamrock Environmental and D.H. Griffin are on the scene. They are contractors working for the plant's insurance carrier, and we are working in tandem with Shamrock and D.H. Griffin as I speak to kind of start picking our way into the edge of the plant, focusing our attention first on some areas that we have identified via drone footage. It's, you know, I hate to call them hot spots because it's more than a spot. These are piles, tons of product, but they do show kind of the highest heat signature via thermal imaging equipment that we have. So we're focusing on those piles from an elevated position, flowing heavy streams, about 1,000 gallons a minute. D.H. Griffin is building a berm downhill from the plant to contain runoff, and there is an environmental engineer on site that is working with the city, mapping runoff into the city's stormwater system. At this point, the operational plan is that there'll just be a calculated daytime effort to kind of move across the site until we are satisfied that we have extinguished all the fire. It is difficult to say how long that may take. You know, if we're there a week, it won't surprise me. And emissions from the area are going to sort of ebb and flow as those firefighting operations continue. You know, when you have a body of fire and it is producing a volume of products of combustion, when you apply cooling water, sometimes you get an increase, often you get an increase in smoke production, water vapor production. So residents in the area and downwind from the plant should expect over the next several days to see, again, an ebb and flow in that production of the products of combustion. The EPA is on site doing live air monitoring, and I don't have any updates beyond what we've been reporting for the last couple of days. They're measuring particulate matter, they're measuring compounds of sulfur, they're measuring ammonia, they're measuring nitrogen dioxide. Again, things that are just generally lumped into a category of an irritant. That winds my notes up. I think Council Member of the North Ward, Mayor Pro Tem Dee Dee Adams, would like to make some comments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your continued coverage of this emergency situation. As the council member of the North Ward, I've lived in this ward practically all of my life, in the area where the Weaver fertilizer plant is. I have received numerous calls, text messages, and emails from the constituents in the community at large, but particularly the concern of the constituents that live near the fertilizer plant. I want them to know, as I've communicated to them, and as I've said on Tuesday morning, my job, like all of our jobs, Chief Mayo, public officials, staff, employees, is to protect and serve this community. I want to thank Chief Mayo and the Winston-Salem Fire Department, Winston-Salem Police Department, the Emergency Responders Management Department, as well as the Forsyth County Sheriff's Department, and all of the other organizations that have come to our need at this time. I want the constituents to know that, again, I promise you, I will do whatever is necessary to ensure that my community is whole. Whether it's black, white, brown, red, yellow, I don't care. My job is to make sure that they are left whole and safe. We have been traumatized enough with COVID. Now my constituents are traumatized with this fertilizer fire. They don't feel safe, they're anxious, they're nervous, they don't know when some of them are coming back home, and the hotel bills are killing them because most of everyone lives from paycheck to paycheck. So my job is to ensure that my community is left whole and safe and that their voices are heard, all of them. I want to thank the city for providing the Latino Hispanic translator. Every time anything happens in this city, we need to make sure everybody's voice is heard and that they can hear our voice as well. So I'll be working with the city staff. As you know, the governor was here yesterday. Everybody that promises that they're going to help will help. I'm going to hold you to task to that to make sure that my community is left whole and safe. Again, I want to thank all of you for showing up here this morning and your continued support to engage and communicate to the community. As you can tell by my voice, I have been talking an extremely long time. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you on behalf of the city and the mayor, Winston-Salem. Adam joins in the city council. Again, thank you.
I'll take any questions you may have that were not covered in my opening notes.
Chief Mayor, I'll start here. We've been doing a little bit more research, and you guys were kind enough to answer a lot of different questions about building codes this morning and how this facility has kind of built over the years, starting from 1940 to 1970, and understanding those codes and knowing that those buildings get grandfathered in and they're not held to the same standards that a building would be in 2022 per se. So I wonder, first question, were there any kind of sprinkler systems or things like that that might be present in today's manufacturing facilities within that building? And if there were or were not, would they have helped in this situation at all?
I'm going to address that, Rick. If I misspeak, please correct me. Rick McIntyre is here from the fire department's life safety branch. So the building was not equipped with fire sprinklers. It was built at a time where it was, even if it was required to be built with sprinklers, it was built at a time before there was any code enforcement. That building was built in unincorporated Wake County. It was not in the city limits when it was built. The city has come up around that facility. It's my understanding that building was constructed in the early 1940s, and Forsyth County did not have a fire marshal until 1951. So it was there 11 years before there was really any code enforcement authority in the county. Now, the second question was about would a sprinkler system have made a difference? And you know, it's difficult to speculate, but what we do know is historically there has never been and not that this was a loss of life fire, but I'm just trying to give you some idea of the effectiveness of fire sprinklers. There's never been a multi-death fire in America in a building that was properly equipped with fire sprinklers. And Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, almost every fire in America that has been controlled by fire sprinklers has been controlled with one or two heads. And in a facility like that, a head would be expected to flow how many gallons per minute? 26. So 52 gallons a minute would have been expected to have controlled that fire based on history.
And I don't expect you to speculate. Maybe this is a better question for you, Mr. McIntyre, but I think there are a lot of people that are going to want to know, okay, well, what are the other buildings that might not have a sprinkler system in them in Winston-Salem that are grandfathered in, just like this one? I'm sure there are probably more. Is that something that you're thinking about and looking into as you deal with this fire and consider the aftermath?
I think probably at this point in this incident, that's a little bit much probably for the intent of this news conference. We can have a conversation about that maybe in a week or two if you'll get in touch with us.
When it comes to the rain, how is the rain helping the fighting operations and how is it hurting it?
So water application at this point, as I mentioned earlier, the volume of product has been reduced to the point that we consider any water application to be generally positive from the cooling effect. That's the positive. And the question was about what's the effect of the rain. Some drawbacks to the rain are it does create additional runoff The positive to that is it is also diluting that runoff. A negative is that rain is generally causing the smoke just the atmospheric conditions associated with this rain system are causing the smoke to lay, the products of combustion to lie close to the ground, so that's causing some visibility issues. And then, the other negative is we have firefighters on site right now working in a 40-degree rain, which is even in this gear is pretty miserable. It gets heavy, it gets wet. It's working in a 40-degree rain. I don't have to tell you all what that's like.
How many firefighters are on site right now, if you don't mind me asking? And since they're on site, what does that mean for people who are evacuating? Does that mean that they get to return soon? What can they expect? There
are probably a dozen operating on site, and we're rotating crews through about every 4 hours. The question was how many firefighters are on the site now, and then the follow-up question to that was what does that mean in terms of the reducing the evacuation distance. So, the further in time we go, the closer we are to reducing that evacuation distance, but we are not yet in a position until we just started the heavy equipment operating about noon. And we want to do some more air sampling before we start pulling that evacuation radius back.
Can you also talk about the current threat of a possible explosion? What does that look like at this time?
I think at this point, the primary, according to the subject matter expert, the threat of an explosion was greatly diminished overnight through the cooling operations. My primary concern, I'm not a chemist. I've been educated on this product more in the last 72 hours than I knew about it before, but I've really gotten an education on it. But the consensus amongst the subject matter experts is at this point that the greatest risk is from a rapid fire condition due to moving stuff around and opening things up that have the heat and the fuel, but they don't have the air. And we reach in with an excavator and kind of pull back a crust that's formed over it, and you've got hot product there, and we give it the air, and we have a rapid fire condition.
Do you know when would it be safe for those who evacuate already in hotels or shelters to come back to their houses? Any estimate?
I would hate to say, because if I say it's 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock or midnight, then that's what people come to expect, and I'd rather not. I would rather plan for the worst and hope for the best, but we understand that it is inconvenient to be displaced from your home. We understand the costs associated with eating out and staying in hotels, and it's just, we all feel safe, safest at home. That's where we want to be. We recognize that, and we want folks to get back as quickly as possible.
Would you say it's a good sign to see firefighters actually out on the site right now?
And as soon as we are able to let somebody know, we will start communicating that through all of our marketing channels. We will try to saturate the area just like we did with the evacuation order. The next question was, is it positive to see firefighters on site? And I would take that as a positive sign that we feel like it's safe enough to go in. And again, we are not just, we're not running bulldozers through the plant. This is a very judicious, the incident management team that was on duty last night spent most of the night planning for what was going to be carried out today. We are being very calculated and meticulous about what it is we're doing, what we're moving, how we're moving it, the volume of water we're flowing, that sort of thing. So overall, it's a positive sign, but this does not mean that the danger has completely been eliminated.
Chief, considering the dangerous nature of the chemicals that are on the property, shouldn't plants like this have to adhere to 2022 codes instead of just continuing to be grandfathered in?
That's a question that would really be, that's beyond my ability to really, that direction would have to come from general statute. or from local political action. You know, in a council member form of government, I kind of carry out the wishes of the elected leaders. It's really not my position to be setting policy.
Are your firefighters wearing protective gear? 'Cause I hear a lot of talk on the scanner about a safety official telling people things as far as, how they move around.
They are in self-contained breathing apparatus, so the question is about what kind of respiratory protection is being used on scene. Those personnel who are operating in and around the edge of the cloud, the smoke cloud, they are in self-contained breathing apparatus, which would be the air tank on the back, full face respirator, positive pressure. They're covered up.
Was there any way prior to this incident for residents to know about the risk of living near 600 tons of ammonium nitrate? That might be another down too.
Well, I mean, I think, you would be aware of it by proximity, just like people kind of know where the recycling dumpsters are that are close to their house. I don't know that I would be speaking for Weaver to come up with some estimation as to how much they advertise publicly the raw material and products, what they're doing on site. Do you want to speak to that?
One of the things that I learned while working in manufacturing battery for the past almost 30 years in the brewery, they're all considered food plants, or they create products that use chemicals. One of the things that we're required by the federal government as well as the state to have as a manufacturing plant is the MSDS for all of the chemicals that you have in your plant. It could be something as simple as just an aerosol can of something, but there is a record somewhere. Now, I did get questions from my constituents asking me why the city didn't let the public know of the amount of ammonium nitrate in the product in that facility. And I explained to them that we don't do that. That would require us to then track and public everything on every business in Winston-Salem and the county. The businesses are required to register with the state and the county and whatever. And we do the compliance auditing based on, again, the general statute and the federal government. But we can't mandate or put out the manufacturing, the goods and other things in the plant or manufacturing process of a business to the public every day. So I wanted people to understand that it's not that the fire department, the fire inspectors, the city, the county, environments, we didn't do our job. We do our job based on the general statute. We cannot overstep that. If people want to change the laws about the grandfathering of these businesses, then you need to contact your General Assembly representatives as well as your congressional representatives. Now that this situation has happened, now would be the time that you should move forward with that if that's what you so choose.
This question for you. Evacuation is not mandatory, but some people have told us that because it's not mandatory, their insurance won't cover their expenses as well. And they're living day to day not knowing when they return home. And some people work within that evacuation side as well. And some people come from disadvantaged backgrounds as well. What is the city doing to help them, and what measures can happen?
But as you've heard me say before, and those that know me from over the past 13 years, I will do everything I can to ensure that the people are made whole. Whether that's the process, everything is a process. And again, I know people are frustrated. They're excited, they're anxious. They want this to be over now. But this is no different than when we got hit with COVID in 2019 in the fall, and now we're going into 3 years later. The process has to play out. We have to allow the process to do that, and the people that are responsible, such as us, government officials and staff, to do what we can do to make the process better for the consumers, the citizens. As I said before, there is money available. There's money somewhere. I don't know where it is, but my job is to find that money. My job is to ensure with city staff and other government officials what is the responsibility of the company. All of us have insurance policies. We know how they read. They might sound good at first, but then if you read the fine print, there's always something in there that you overlooked, like flood insurance, renter's insurance. So Louis, what I'm going to do when I leave here today My job is to go find out what are the funding mechanisms that are in place on the local level, the county level, the state level, and the federal level to ensure that the constituents and the businesses are compensated or something to help them become whole again. Thank you.
Chief, when you you talked before about going in to inspect what was happening at the site, and this morning, today you talked about actually cooling. Can we translate that for the general public as you were back fighting that fire? Because Mr. Grubbs said in the morning update that we hate to come back from a fire. That's not something we're used to doing. So can you describe this as now you're fighting this fire again?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Wes, but I'm gonna take a shot at it. So this is, you know, technically, it would be technically defined as a firefighting operation. The fire that we are observing on site is not flaming combustion. It is smoldering fires and deeply seated in piles of various fertilizer raw materials. It is underneath shelters that have fallen in. It's under tin roofs that have fallen in as a result of the fire. So what this looks like is we take thermal imagery from an aerial position of the site, and we determine based on heat signature where the greatest risks are, and we kind of try to start working on those areas first. And you know, we're kind of working from largest to small, from exterior to interior. Does that answer your question?
Has the rain stopped the drone at all from being able to do that imagery?
No, the drone's been flying in the rain. Yeah. The question was, has the drone been affected by the weather? And the answer is no. The drone has remained in the air during this rain event.
Thank you. I just came back from La Victoria supermarket. It's a premier Latino supermarket. I interviewed the owner and the staff there, and they're not very informed about the evacuation process. I know the firefighters have been going around with loudspeakers, but they don't know they have to evacuate. What other things are you guys doing to inform the community, especially Spanish-speaking and other immigrant communities, that it's not safe?
So the marketing department is handling our messaging, coordinating our messaging effort, but we started probably Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning, with making sure all of our messaging was going out in both English and Spanish, and we've been saturating the area, the evacuation area, with print, broadcast, social media. That's what our effort has entailed.
Just one more question for you, Chief. You said it earlier, you guys have been now on the scene for more than 72 hours. Even though you haven't been physically fighting that fire for 72 hours, you've been at the command post, you've been monitoring it. How are you, and how are the other people that are right alongside of you that have been awake basically for the past 3 days straight, trying to get this thing under control? How are you all feeling?
So the question is kind of about the, I'm paraphrasing, but about the physical and mental health of all the emergency services crews that are on scene, and we're holding up fairly well. We're a 24-hour operation, so our folks, as is law enforcement, EMS, emergency management. I mean, we're on duty all the time. So we're rotating crews through. We would change shifts at 7:30 every morning, regardless. But since we have begun operations, you know, when we have folks who are on site, we are rotating crews through generally in 4-hour increments. We have critical incident stress. We have an internal critical incident stress management team, and they have been working with folks who were on the scene Monday night who, much like me, you know, kind of were, I had a funny feeling Monday night when I realized exactly what we were dealing with and how much. But overall, I appreciate you asking, and we're in pretty good shape. This is one of those situations where Well, I tell you what, let me do this. Let me just take this opportunity to publicly thank all the folks that we have working, all of our firefighters. This is one of those times where you're kind of reminded of what their commitment to the job is, and their dedication to the profession, and just sort of that genetic makeup that is a stamp of a firefighter. We have assembled, and that goes for, we have assembled a team, we've assembled a team of fire, law enforcement, EMS, emergency management, marketing, professionals, chemical engineers, hazardous material specialists, that I would put, I would match them against anybody in the country. I have gotten dozens of phone calls, emails, text messages from around the country saying, essentially, you're doing the right thing. Keep making the decisions you've been making. Keep listening to the expert advice. I can go to bed and sleep for the rest of my life being confident in the decisions we made this week based on the information and the expertise we had available to us. It was reassuring when the ammonium nitrate subject matter expert arrived yesterday, and I said, okay, I got him off to the side, and I said, shoot me straight, if you'd been here at 8 o'clock Monday night, what would we have done different? And he said, absolutely nothing. He said, I get a little bit emotional about it. He said the decisions you all have made are exactly what we would have done if you had me here the whole time.
You did it, sweetie.
So I'm confident in those decisions, and proud of the work that our folks have done this week.
I wouldn't have nobody here but you.
So yeah, we have a lot to be proud of in this community with the professionals we have here, and the equipment, and the training, and the expertise, the resources we have available to us.
That's my team.
I think that'll probably wrap us up. Ed, what we're going to do another one at 4:30? Do we know? 4:30. We need to vote after this and come up with a plan. So stay tuned to the fire department's social media, the city's social media, and Ed, I know, is in touch with most or all of you, and we'll bring you up to speed on when the next update will occur. Thank you all so much for helping us get the word out.
Before, because I know some of you have been asking about this. I don't want to run past this. We have Minor Barnett. We have EPA representatives that could answer questions if you have them regarding air quality. Okay? So don't run past the opportunity. We're not going to do individual interviews after this. So if you'd like to hear from them, you need to call for it now.
Are they able to also address any of the stormwater runoff or anything like that?
There's no one here from Stormwater that can speak about that at this time. Okay, so last call for EPA and air quality. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Thank you, boss.
Yep, thank you.